are coming on the air tonight with a long shot push, now one step closer to law after nearly every member of the House of Representatives voted to force the release of the DOJ's Epstein files. What we know about what happens next, what those documents could show, and how soon we could see them. Then the president, side by side with the Saudi crown prince, the controversially warm welcome MBS got today at the White House, and what's on the menu, politics-wise, for dinner. Plus, another big win for a big player in tech, why a judge says Meta can keep its social media empire intact. And what we're just learning about the cause of that deadly bridge collapse in Baltimore. Remember that? Why officials say it could have been avoided. Plus, the hunt for the thieves on the run after the latest in a string of celebrity break-ins. What they allegedly stole from an NFL quarterback in just the latest high-profile celebrity theft. That's later on in the show. Hey there, I'm Hallie, and we are coming on the air with the spotlight very much on the Senate. Live look there at the floor. We may see some action tonight on a bill to force the release of the Epstein files in that chamber, just hours after the House passed the bill in a landslide. It was an avalanche here. Every single member of that chamber, except for one, giving it the green light. Listen to some of the reaction.
What do the American people want to know? They want to know who else visited Epstein's island, who raped young girls, who abused young girls, who are the other people who were involved.
Now, some survivors of Jeffrey Epstein abuse, some of whom gathered today in the shadow of the Capitol for a rally, tell me they're one step closer to accountability and transparency, what they have been fighting for, they say, for so long. And I spoke with one of them just moments after. Do you see this as another step in your fight for justice?
Absolutely it is. We've waited so long for this, and we've been so patient. It feels really good to see, finally, something happen.
Liz Stein there tells me this is just a starting point now with questions on what is actually in these documents. When could we see them? More on that in just a second. And what's next, right? The president says he will sign the bill if it reaches his desk. But the complicating factor, potentially, the Justice Department may still be able to keep some documents under wraps because of victims' privacy and the investigation that the president demanded into Epstein's connections to Democrats. I want to bring in Ryan Nobles on Capitol Hill. A busy day, a fast-moving day, Ryan. Tom Winter's going to join us, too, in a second. And, boy, the pace of this has accelerated. When you think back to just a couple of months ago when House Speaker Mike Johnson essentially sent lawmakers home early for the summer recess to push this off. Now here we are. This thing may actually end up in the hands of the Senate tonight.
Yeah, that's right, Hallie. It does seem as though the Senate feels motivated to get this off of their plate as soon as possible. The Senate Majority Leader John Thune telling us today that he wants to move quickly. He's already polling his members right now to see if they would vote yes if it was to come to the floor. And he said that he doesn't feel amendments are necessary because of the overwhelming positive vote that came out of the House of Representatives. And it's not going to be just Thune who wants to see this move quickly. Senate Democrats are also very interested in getting this to the floor as soon as possible. In fact, the Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer, said he will make a motion to bring it to the floor as soon as tonight. Take a listen.
We have an opportunity to get this bill done today and have it on the president's desk to be signed into law tonight.
Now, to be clear, it's not Chuck Schumer who will decide how quickly this bill gets to the floor. It is really in the hands of the Majority Leader, John Thune. Thune wouldn't forecast for us exactly when he thinks the vote could happen, but he said he believes it will happen sometime this week. And, Hallie, he did not rule out it coming to the floor as soon as tonight.
Okay, so watching what happens there, it would then go on to the president's desk for him to sign. And he, in that really sort of surprising political pivot now, after months of resistance to backing the bill, says that he will sign it into law. And it seemed to be an apparent acknowledgement of the writing on the wall here. When you look at that, when you look at the way that the president has shifted strategy here, one of the pieces that has come up, as you well know, some lawmakers have suggested that the president could bypass the rest of this. I mean, you talk about the Senate procedure, all the things that have to happen. The president, in theory, they say, could direct the DOJ to simply release the files now, essentially. I want to play a little bit from the president in the Oval Office just a few hours ago.
As far as the Epstein files I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I threw him out of my club many years ago because I thought he was a sick pervert. But I guess I turned out to be right.
So this is the president. He's been frustrated about what he sees as a distraction or deflection from Democrats here. And yet, obviously, every Republican except for one has now voted to force the release of this bill. How does this play into this bigger story over what's sort of politically a MAGA rift that we've seen?
this is an issue that consistently across the board, the Trump base has clamored for. They were the ones that generated energy around this controversy during the 2024 campaign. They are the grassroots supporters that are putting the immense amount of pressure on Republicans in Congress to get this over the finish line. I don't think it's going to be simply enough for the president to sign this into law. They want tangible results here. They want to see these files. They believe that there is a lot of information that has been held under lock and key by the Department of Justice, where there are going to be names that are named, there's going to be actions that are taken, and that people are going to be held accountable as a result of it. So there's no doubt, and you could hear it in the voice of the Epstein survivor that you talked to today, Hallie, there's a degree of relief that we're seeing this huge breakthrough from this side of Pennsylvania Avenue. But it's really ultimately what comes out of the Department of Justice that's going to make a difference for the people who've been clamoring for this for so long. And it's also not an issue that's going to go away for President Trump or congressional Republicans until we see that tangible action take place.
It's also one of those things, Ryan, and you know, and I know you have too, had conversations with some Epstein abuse survivors who believe that the American public is on their side. And that has been reflected in polling, not just sort of broadly among Americans, but also specifically inside the GOP.
This is an overwhelmingly popular issue among American voters. You talk to Republicans, Democrats, you talk to older voters, younger voters of any different ethnicity or race. Everyone agrees that the Epstein files should be released. And I think that was reflected in this vote here today. There's not a single person who's up for elected office that wants to be on the wrong side of this issue. And in an era of politics that are so unbelievably partisan, Hallie, it is so unique to see a vote with such overwhelming support. 427-1. We don't see votes like that ever. There's a real possibility that if and when this comes to the Senate floor, that they will just do it immediately by unanimous consent without any sort of pushback by any senator. So, yeah, this is a problem for President Trump if he is not able to deliver what the American voters are clearly asking for.
Ryan Nobles, our chief Capitol Hill correspondent, live for us. And I imagine, Ryan, you'll be sticking around through the night as we see what happens on the Senate side, if it is tonight, if not later in the week. Thank you. Appreciate that. As we talk about the focus on Epstein abuse survivors, I want to bring in the family members of one of the most prominent Epstein accusers, Virginia Roberts Giuffre. She died by suicide earlier this year. Her brother and sister-in-law are with us now, Sky and Amanda Roberts. We're very grateful to have you here on such.
She did it. She did it. She paved the way for the survivors to continue to come forward and to continue to fight. And it means everything to us today. I mean, it's unanimous. There was only one nay on the floor. I think it represents how the American people truly feel about this, and that it's time. It's time to give healing to the survivors, but it's also time to give healing to so many other survivors out there, including many Americans that have a very similar story, even though it's not Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. So, you know, we're so proud of her today. It's a win, and we got to take those wins, you know, because there's a lot more work to continue to do.
What do you think Virginia would say if she were here today?
I don't think I could say that on live television, honestly. I think she was just such a firecracker, but I think she'd say, we're doing it. And she would look at her survivor sisters and tell them everything that they've done, everything that they've been fighting for together was not in vain. And I think she would feel so much joy today, and like the camaraderie with her survivor sisters today was so powerful, and it was so special to share this moment with them.
Scott, for both of you, there may still be a road ahead. We just had that conversation about what could happen in the Senate, and then it's got to go to the president's desk for him to sign it in the law. How are you both thinking about the road ahead from here?
I think it's a marathon, and it's been a marathon. I mean, you're talking about decades worth of abuse that is now coming to surface, and they're finally getting accountability for that, or acknowledgement, right? Today was a big acknowledgement. but it needs to go through the Senate. We need unanimous votes through the Senate, and then it is going to go on President Trump's desk. I mean, we are very hopeful for that, but there's a lot of fight left, because the first step in the healing journey, or just in this journey of justice, is acknowledgement first, and then it's accountability. Once we do get the files released and we do uncover the names of some of the most rich and powerful politicians and financiers and world leaders, I mean, it's time to hold them to account, whether that's social justice or whether that's true justice, which is our legal system.
Sky calls this a marathon. Amanda, is that how you see it?
I think that's what I said today in speaking with many members of the House and the Democratic Women's Caucus and some of the Republican representatives as well, is that we've been running this marathon by ourselves, and we need you to run it with us. No matter what hurdles may happen even after this, we need you to run this marathon with us. We need you to carry this load. And if we can do it together, then we can push this through. And it's time. So I think it's why it's so important when these wins do happen. It gives you rejuvenation to keep going. You know, it's exhausting to reveal that emotional trauma every single time. So I think the ask today was, no matter what happens today, run this marathon with us and let's get through these hurdles together.
You talk about this process moving forward here. President Trump was asked today in the Oval Office, why not simply direct his Department of Justice to release these files now? What would your message be to the administration on that? Amanda, Sky, either one of you.
I think it's really difficult. It's a twofold thing with the administration. I feel like we've gone through this process of gaslighting and the back and forth, and it's really hard to trust the things that they say. I think we're looking to them for action. Actions are going to speak volumes more than anything else. And it's in your power to do the right thing. So if you wanted this to be released, then you would just do it. I think we are looking elsewhere for the hand of help right now. It would be surprising. It would be a pleasant surprise to see this administration really back survivors and release the files and do the right thing. But unfortunately, I'm not going to be naive to expect that to happen. I would love to be pleasantly surprised.
We have also talked before about Ghislaine Maxwell, who is obviously serving her sentence, and some form of leniency or clemency has not been ruled out. The president, again, I don't know if we've talked since then, just recently, again was asked about it and again did not rule that out. How do you see that?
It's truly a slap in the face to us and to so many survivors out there. The truth is, like, the UK and the king can strip his brother of the prince title, but our own president can't rule out a somebody who's been convicted of sex trafficking minors. That's the conversation we're having. I think it's disgusting that she's she's playing with puppies in her prison, and you have guards now coming out publicly saying, "I'm tired of serving her like she's some type of celebrity inside of there." She's not a celebrity. She's convicted of sex trafficking minors, including my sister.
One of the things that you two and so many, as you say, who Virginia called her survivor sisters, have been pushing for is the release of more information. Obviously, this is what's happened today is a step closer to that. Are you confident that ultimately these files will be released, Sky?
We're hopeful. They've had them in their possession for a very long time. We hope that they are very careful with the survivors' names. They've been a little reckless recently, especially with the unredaction of our own sisters' names in some of the files coming out. I think they need to make sure they're protecting the survivors first, but make sure we're not protecting the predators. We have to have them released and completely unredacted to the people that would have been involved. And we know for a fact there's videos. My sister was led to the very room where Jeffrey Epstein had shown that he can see everybody in every room. He was a master manipulator. And so we are hopeful. I think it's time for true accountability, and that's what we won't stop. The survivor sisters won't stop until we get that.
Before I let you go, I know that this has been an incredibly difficult year on a lot of fronts for both of you, with the loss of Virginia and with this advocacy that you have been doing over the course of so many months. How are you? How are you doing through all this?
You're the first person to ask that question, actually. It depends on the day. There are moments, and grief isn't singular. There are moments where it's so heavy and it's so deep. We miss her so much. But then there are days that we get relief with days like this, and just speaking to her survivor sisters, having that connection and being with family and remembering her in the best way. I think the grief journey will never really be over for us.
You think about her all the time, I know.
Oh, yeah, every day.
Especially today?
Oh, man, she is screaming today. Whatever button she's pressing from the other side, she's still fighting with her survivor sisters, just maybe not here in the physical.
Skye and Amanda Roberts, thank you so much for being with us. I know you've had a lot on your plate today and over the last couple of months. We really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Obviously, as we cover this story, as we look ahead to what may happen in the Senate later on tonight, there are still a lot of questions ahead. One of the things that you've heard from survivors and their families, like the family of Virginia Roberts Giuffre, is what happens from here and how important it is that this is not politicized, that this is not made partisan, that this is so deeply personal for so many to them. I want to bring in Tom Winter, because part of that, Tom, is the ability to try to get the release of these files. This is what these men and women have been fighting for so long. I know that you have some reporting here listen, the bill directs the DOJ to release certain kinds of information. There are things that could potentially be in a release of documents. Can you walk us through what that expectation may be moving forward?
Yeah, and so, I think we'll just pick up where we were listening to there and listening to Virginia Roberts Giuffre's family talking about the idea of videotapes. And, Hallie, this is something you and I have been trying to report on for what feels like several years now, the idea that there could be videotapes. That's something that obviously, if it's contained within the files, would be something that would be presumably important, although presumably redacted, because it could involve minor victims. I will say that it is important for people to understand that there is no indication from our years of reporting that any videos of individuals, including Jeffrey Epstein, actually exist, even though he may have had the ability to record. There's some question about that as it pertains in particular to the Florida location. But all of the computers, interestingly, just before it appears that Palm Beach County police detectives arrived at the house to execute a search warrant, all of those computers were removed from the residence. And that's clear from the video that police took that day. Those particular computers, there was an effort by the FBI and the prosecutors at the time to be able to get access to those machines. And then the U.S. Attorney Office, led by Alex Acosta, did not want to pursue further subpoenas to get access to them. So that just remains kind of the nuance and the difficulties of this case, in that you have individuals that saw something, that have talked to law enforcement about it. By the way, when these victims talk to law enforcement, if they were to intentionally mislead the FBI, that's something that they could be charged with. And so that perhaps speaks to the truth of some of the accounts that we've been hearing of. And it just adds yet another wrinkle to what has been such a sad case so far. As far as other things that could come out, summaries of those interviews, as well as more information, I'd be curious to see if we'll be able to get access to the contents of Epstein's phone when he was arrested at Teterboro Airport in 2019, Hallie, as an example.
Tom, I want to, if you can stand by, please do. If you got other reporting to do, I get it. But I want to go to the Senate floor because Chuck Schumer is speaking now, the top Senate Democrat. We may start to see some action here on the Senate. Can we listen in? I'm going to ask my control room for just a beat to listen into what the senator's saying.
As lopsided as a vote as you can get, 427 to 1. It's now the Senate's turn. In a few moments, I will ask unanimous consent for the Senate to pass the Epstein bill as soon as it comes over from the House. My unanimous consent request guarantees that the Senate will immediately pass the Epstein Files Transparency Act without any further action as soon as it comes over from the House. We will pass the House's bill without changes, without delay, and we will finally get this done. Epstein victim groups have made clear that they support this bill as written, without amendments. We should listen to them and pass this bill quickly. They've worked so hard and long to make this happen and deserve tremendous, tremendous credit that we have arrived at this moment. This isn't about Democrats versus Republicans or about Congress versus the president. This is about giving the American people the transparency they've been crying for. This
okay,
is
so
about
you have been listening to the
accountable
top Senate Democrat, Chuck Schumer, there. Let me bring in our chief Capitol Hill correspondent, Ryan Noble, because I think people know, Ryan, it is not Senate Leader Schumer who controls the mechanisms of the floor. Help us understand the Senate procedure. What is he trying to do, and what might we see next year? Because this pace could pick up quickly, potentially.
Yeah, and so there's a lot in what Senator Schumer just said there. He said that when the bill is delivered to the House, then I will do this. So this isn't something that he's doing in this moment. He's more forecasting what his plans are for when the bill comes over.
So you can't pre-unanimously consent, right? You can't pre-do the UC in advance of what you anticipate.
Right, yeah, so that the bill needs to be in possession of the Senate for them to do that. And then what he's going to ask for here is a unanimous consent that as soon as the bill arrives, it's basically deemed passed and will go immediately to President Trump's desk without any sort of amendments added to it. We should listen to what...
Let's listen. Sure, yep.
The Senate has now passed the Epstein bill as soon as it comes over from the House. I yield the floor.
Mr. President,
they did pass
Senator
it
from Oregon.
through unanimous consent.
Equal justice under law just took an enormous stride forward in this Senate chamber. It was back earlier this year in July when Senator Lujan and I
Right, let me bring it back in here for a
bill,
second, because it sure sounds like the Senate just passed this through unanimous consent, if we heard that correctly.
This is exactly what it sounds like. No one objected to this unanimous consent offer by Senator Schumer. And you saw Senator Curtis, who was at the dais, gavel it in. It is passed and it is over. This unanimous consent of the Epstein resolution, so it will now go to President Trump's desk to be signed into law. It's over in Congress, essentially. This happened, as we've been forecasting all day, Hallie. When it happens, it could happen quickly, and this happened quickly. And it seemed as though Schumer was definitely coding his language there to make sure that he had all his ducks in a row, but it appears as though this unanimous consent resolution means that this bill is passed, and it will now go to President Trump for his signature.
I have to just take a beat here, Ryan, because I think this moved incredibly quickly. And I just want to make sure that our viewers are following this, that we are following this appropriately. What we've seen in the last couple of hours, I'm going to walk through the timeline here. This bill, after months of essentially a fight over trying to force release the Epstein files, nearly unanimously passed the House at what, 2:30, 3 o'clock Eastern, roughly.
Right.
Then it goes to the Senate, where it seems in the last 3 minutes or so, it was passed via unanimous consent, which is a Senate mechanism, a Senate procedure that means that if nobody objects, it then takes the next step, which is goes to the president's desk to become law. That is what we have just seen. That is it. This fight has basically been fought over the course of the last 4 hours.
Yeah, that's it. And what it tells you is that Republicans weren't really interested in debating this or belaboring this issue any further. They saw the vote in the House. They recognized the overwhelming support that this bill had. It came over to the Senate. Senator Schumer brought it up and said, hey, guys, if we're all in agreement on this, unless anyone objects, we're going to say this is passed. Just one senator had the ability to say no, and then that would have forced a process to pass it. No one said a word. Senator Curtis hit the gavel, and that was it. It was passed, and it now goes to President Trump's desk. And this usually doesn't really happen like this, as you know, especially in the Senate. It's a very deliberative body where they always take time to cross every T and dot every I. That's not what happened here tonight. It was very clear that no one wanted to get in the way of this resolution passing, and that's what we saw play out here. And Hallie, if we can even back up even further, Please. When you think about this, obviously there were a lot of barriers to getting the bill to the floor. We had the whole situation with Adelita Grijalva and the fact that she wasn't sworn in. She was the 218th signature on the discharge petition. But even then, we thought after she signed that, after the shutdown ended and Speaker Johnson swore her in, Speaker Johnson had 7 legislative business days to even put it on the floor. So there was a world in which we thought that this wasn't even going to make it to the House floor until after Thanksgiving because there weren't enough legislative days prior to the holiday. He moved on that quickly, and then it coming to the Senate, there was a chance that it got bottled up in the Senate, that they would attempt some sort of amendment to it to make this process go even further. In fact, Speaker Johnson tried to make a last-ditch pitch on that this morning to no avail. It's clear that this is something that they realize has overwhelming support among the American people, and they don't want to mess around with it anymore. And it shows when there is an issue that has overwhelming support, this body can move very quickly. It is rare, but this is an example of that. Yes.
Ryan, I'm going to ask you to stand by, check your phone. I know you need to. And I'm going to ask my control room to do a couple of things here as we are now in this significant rolling coverage here with both chambers of Congress having moved forward now on this push to try to force the release of the Epstein bill. We're going to update our banner there, our Chiron. I'm going to ask the team, too, just to keep an eye on any roving hallway cameras. We know that sometimes happens, getting reaction from some of these senators here. Because here at this point, here is where we are. This long shot push to try to force the release of the Epstein files has succeeded, largely against what political observers saw as odds stacked against it, given the political realities here. But after President Trump's surprising political pivot, again saying he would sign it into law after months of resisting backing the bill, likely seeing that there would be enough support in the House of Representatives to pass this, this has now, it appears, made it through both of these chambers. That means that the ball is very firmly in President Trump's court. It is going to be on President Trump's desk. And for that, I want to bring in Gabe Gutierrez, who has scrambled to a camera for us because, Gabe, this is it. This is a significant moment here. The president told our Garrett Haake, was it just yesterday, I think, that he would sign this bill into law if it makes it through both chambers, Gabe. And presumably in a matter of hours, days, we don't know, he will make good on that.
We don't know yet, Hallie, and actually I'm looking down at my phone because I'm furiously texting White House officials, as are other colleagues on our team, trying to figure out what the timetable for this is, considering that the Senate just passed this a few moments ago right here on the air. But yes, as you said, this has marked quite the political pivot for the president over the last several days. It was just yesterday that, yes, he clarified to our colleague Garrett that he would sign this if it did indeed make it past Congress. Up until then, it was really unclear. Several days before that, or at least over the weekend, he said that he now supported the House and for Republicans in the House to vote for this bill. But it was very unclear what was going to happen in the Senate, whether the president himself would sign it if it got to his desk. He now says it will. So in terms of the mechanics of all this, we just don't know at this point, and we promise to let you know as soon as we find out. No reaction yet from White House officials, as this just happened within the past few minutes. Earlier today, however, the president was asked about the Epstein files and this vote in Congress. He lashed out at the reporter who asked it. So certainly this is something that the White House really does not like talking about. The president is frustrated that all of this has overshadowed much of his domestic agenda, at least for the moment. And again, we're just waiting to see what happens next here now that the ball, as you say, is in the president's court, Hal.
Gabe, thank you. I'm going to ask you to stand by again, and I want to bring back in Ryan Nobles because, Ryan, I just wanted, this is a small, logistical, procedural thing, but I want to make sure that we are locked in on what is, the specifics of what the process is. This bill is going to make its way from the House to the Senate. When it does, the Senate's not going to vote. After what Chuck Schumer just did, it's going to be considered passed, correct? And then at that point, it automatically moves on to the White House. Do I have that right? And tell us if we don't.
Yeah, good. And I do think that's an important clarification here, Hallie. Yeah. The Senate, it hasn't formally been passed by the Senate yet because the Senate has not received it from the House. But basically, what Chuck Schumer has offered up here is consent that the entire Senate just agree that it is passed the second that the Senate receives it from the House. And so for all intents and purposes, the resolution is passed. And once it is transmitted to the House, or to the Senate, I should say, it will automatically go to the president's desk and be considered passed. And as we said before, this unanimous consent procedural tool that the Senate has does give the opportunity to move things quickly, but it also gives just one senator the opportunity to slow the process down dramatically. And there wasn't a single senator, Republican or Democrat, that took up that option to slow things down. Keep in mind, there was a possibility that it may not have even been a Republican that stood in the way of this. There could have been a Democratic objection to it to force people to be accountable and actually hold a recorded vote. But Senator Schumer deemed that not necessary and instead offered this up and said, let's get this process moving as quickly as possible. So we are currently out to the Speaker's office, Hallie, to get clarification as to when
what's that timing going to be?
Yeah, when he will send that bill over to the House, how long that could possibly take. Whether or not it's a physical piece of paper that has to be brought over, that's basically just a logistical question right now. So we're waiting to hear. I actually did see Speaker Johnson about 45 minutes ago and asked him if he had talked to Senator Thune about the fact that Senator Thune wasn't interested in adding these amendments,
Brian,
which Speaker Johnson was asking for. Yep.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, pal. I just want to explain to people, this is a House vigil with some of the survivors of Epstein abuse that was happening at the same time that this happened. I want to see if we have any audio here. Let's listen in for like a half a second. No audio there on that, Ryan. But just a rather remarkable split screen here that at this planned House vigil on the day of the House vote, it takes the next step forward in the Senate, Ryan. And I think that is probably the language to use here, right? That the Senate is moving this bill forward with, as you explained, the sort of timing TBD on when the House is going to send that thing over.
Yeah, the language they use is deemed, right, Hallie? So
got it. We'll use that language too, then, pal.
Yeah. So we're deeming this to be a reality when this other thing happens, and so as soon as it comes over, we're going to accept it as being passed without any objection, and it will then move to the president's desk. And and keep in mind the other thing, Hallie, is that President Trump has said he will sign it. He said he has no objection to signing it.
That's right.
That was a big course correction for him from where he was previous when it came to this issue. But President Trump has said he will sign it, so it should be just a matter of time as to when the DOJ will then be kind of the focal point of this story as to exactly how they plan to comply with this resolution, which is, I think it's really important to keep in mind here, Hallie, this isn't a suggestion by the Congress. This is now law, will be law when President Trump signs it. They will be forced to do it. And if they don't, or if they don't comply in a way that members of Congress are satisfied by, that could mean that this could head to the courts, where a judge may force them or compel the Department of Justice to be more transparent and hand more things off. So at the very least, this just puts a tremendous amount of pressure on the Department of Justice in a way that didn't exist before, because, as we've said time and time again, President Trump could have compelled them to do so, could have said it's time to hand this out, and chose not to. The fact that they now have another branch of the government telling them that they have to, this is not something that they can negotiate. They have to do it. And if they don't, there could be penalties as a result.
Ryan Nobles. Ryan, if you can hang at the camera, great. I know you probably need to grab your stuff and go start running around the Capitol to get some reaction to all of this. But I do want to bring in Tom Winter, because, Tom, once this next step happens, and again, the president has said he'll sign it into law. Once the president does that, the clock starts for the Department of Justice, right? The DOJ would have 30 days to release these files.
That's right, Hallie. So taking away any sort of immediate legal challenges and just putting that aside for now, they have 30 days to produce a searchable database of the quote-unquote files. Now, it's not clear whether some of the items that were obtained through grand jury, whether or not that'll have to go to a grand jury, the applicable judge that oversaw the grand jury, to be able to determine whether or not that can come out of kind of the grand jury bin and into the public realm. That'll be a question. One of the things that's interesting here that we so rarely see, we throw around unprecedented and rarely as if we were get paid by the word sometimes in the news industry. This is so rare that we would get to see the internal deliberations and the documents associated with it as it pertains to this case from the Justice Department. They never give that up. They don't release it through FOIA. They don't put those records out there. And so that's going to be very interesting to see, as well as the interviews with the victims in this case and anybody else that the FBI spoke to. And we'll get summaries of those interviews. They're not transcripts, but summaries of those interviews. And then we'll be able to look at more of the flight logs and more of the travel records. A lot of it we've already seen before, to be clear. And then we'll see whether or not we get any information from Epstein's cell phone in 2019. That could be very interesting as well. But that'll all have to be put in a searchable database That's something the Justice Department, doesn't matter the administration, not directed at this one, but that's something that we've seen them struggle with in the past. Then after they release those files, Hallie, they'll have to provide within 15 days to Congress a list of the things they redacted and why. So we'll know a little bit more about that process, too.
Tom Winter, much to follow here as we are taking a look. Again, that split screen with that candlelight vigil being held in the House. And I see, of course, some of the Epstein abuse survivors there, a moment that many of them have been fighting for a very long time. We're going to obviously stay on top of any and all developments as relates to this moment here and to what's ahead, especially when this gets to President Trump's desk. But also tonight from the White House, you've got the president, and he is hosting a dinner. He's going to be right alongside the Saudi crown prince, joining President Trump at the White House after a day where the two were side by side. This controversially warm welcome from Mohammed bin Salman after he was asked about the role he may have played about the 2018 killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. I want you to watch that moment. We'll play it in a second, but keep in mind that MBS, as he's known, has not been to the White House since Khashoggi's death. The CIA says he was responsible. He denies it. As for the president, it was that elaborate welcome for MBS, a red carpet. We might be able to show this to you here. A military flyover. You had the color guard on horseback. The president has denied conflicts of interest between his family business deals with the Saudis and his job as president. His properties have hosted tournaments for Saudi-backed Live Golf for years. And the Trump organization has multiple real estate ventures in the country, including two new Trump towers, we should say. Gabe Gutierrez is back with us at the White House. And if it is a day that ends in Y, Gabe, you are covering 17 stories at once, right? We talked about what's happening as it relates to these Epstein developments, but this MBS story is also significant and was closely watched with a number of headlines coming out of the White House today.
Yeah, that's right, Hallie. Look, it was an incredible visit, and as you alluded to, a lot of pomp and circumstance as the Crown Prince arrived here at the White House. He's expected back here for a glitzy dinner, as you mentioned, in just a short time. But there was that fiery exchange between President Trump and a reporter when he was asked about his business dealings over in Saudi Arabia. You mentioned those Trump-branded developments. The president has received some criticism from those who wonder if his family has been enriching from the presidency in Saudi Arabia and among other places. He sharply responded to that and a slew of other questions. Let's listen.
And Your Royal Highness, the U.S. intelligence concluded that you orchestrated the brutal murder of a journalist. 9/11 families are furious that you are here in the Oval Office. Why should Americans trust you? And the same to you, Mr. President.
Now, who are you with?
I'm with ABC News, sir.
You're with who?
ABC News, sir.
Fake news. ABC fake news. One of the worst in the business. But I'll answer your question. I have nothing to do with the family business. I have left, and when I've devoted 100% of my energy. What my family does is fine.
So the beginning part of that question was about President Trump's family business, and then the reporter, Mary Bruce from ABC News, also asked about the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, the Washington Post journalist who was murdered several years ago. The CIA saying that the Crown Prince was responsible for ordering that murder, something that he repeatedly denies. Now, Hallie, we did get a rare chance to hear from the Crown Prince himself. He also responded to that question. Let's listen to that part of the answer.
It's really painful to hear, anyone that been losing his life for, no real purpose or not in a legal way, and it's been painful for us in Saudi Arabia.
President Trump, though, seemingly upset that the question was even asked, referring to the Crown Prince as his guest, and repeatedly saying that he believed that the Crown Prince had nothing to do with Khashoggi's murder, and also adding, quote, things happen. Hallie.
Gabe Gutierrez live for us outside the White House. Maybe a late night for you as well. Gabe Gutierrez, thank you very much for that reporting. I appreciate that. We've had a lot of headlines already over the course of the last 38 minutes of this show, and we've got a lot more coming up, too, including the blow to Texas Republicans and to the president out of a federal court today, plus why Nicki Minaj was at the UN. A little bit of everything across the spectrum here tonight. We'll be right back. A blow to Texas Republicans and to President Trump from a federal court today, blocking those newly redrawn congressional maps in Texas for the midterms coming up, less than a year from now. The goal was to try to flip these 5 Democratic seats to more Republican-leaning seats. That move, you might remember, triggering huge protests. State law where they left the state to try to prevent the remaining ones from gaveling in. Democrats kind of did this protest to try to prevent Republicans from moving forward with any legislation. The whole thing sparking this broader redistricting battle across the country. You're looking at the states that are in the process now or have already done something to try to redistrict. Jane Tim is following this for us. And so now you have this significant moment, Jane. Explain the judge's rationale here. A judge, by the way, who was, I think, nominated by President Trump, who says this is really more than about politics.
Yeah, this is a conservative panel. Judge Brown wrote the opinion for this 3-judge panel, which has ruled that this was about more than politics. Texas Republicans had maintained that their gerrymander was a partisan one, that it was just about politics and that they drew the maps to elect more Republicans. But the court says you went after majority non-white seats. They point to the fact that the Department of Justice, Trump's Department of Justice, had urged Texas to specifically draw maps targeting these coalition districts in Texas. Now, coalition districts are non-white majority seats, but there isn't one race that makes up a majority of the seat. And so they said that those were sort of improperly done. They weren't in keeping with the Voting Rights Act, and the DOJ threatened to sue Texas. And Texas went and redrew 3 of those districts. And this redistricting plan, the linchpin of Republicans' national sort of redistricting effort, was tossed out because of this and because of what Trump's Department of Justice said.
So what does it mean functionally here? Like, what is it? Because it was really, I mean, I think about what we covered, what was it, 2 weeks ago now, 3 weeks ago, in California, which obviously had its own redistricting battle, et cetera. Like, this really set off a domino effect around the country. What does this mean in practical terms for the midterms in November?
In practical terms, if this is upheld, and it will certainly be appealed to the Supreme Court, Governor Abbott has said he will appeal it to the Supreme Court. These go directly to the top court. If it gets upheld there, Democrats could walk away with more seats than they started this cycle with, more seats than Trump has netted. Of course, the redistricting cycle is not over yet. More states could draw new maps, or this map could be, that this ruling could be tossed by the Supreme Court, who could say, you know, this is going to stand and the 2025 map will go forward. There's a lot at play here, but this is a huge. 5 seats is what would make a big difference.
Jane Tim, following all of it. A busy beat for you, Jane. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Let me go back now to the story that we have been covering in our rolling coverage here tonight on NBC News, and that is the very fast-moving developments to move forward this bill to try to force the release of the Epstein case files in the possession of the Department of Justice. We are now hearing for the first time since the Senate made its move from President Trump. Gabe Gutierrez is at the White House. Come on in, Gabe, because it came on Truth Social, which is where the president often delivers that first reaction in the last few seconds.
Yeah, that's right, Hallie. Look, no sooner than I had to walk away from this camera a few minutes ago, went inside to speak with White House officials about whether the president would sign this bill potentially tonight. At that same exact time, the president posting this on Truth Social, not giving any indication for a timeline, but notably saying, quote, "I don't care when the Senate passes the House bill, whether tonight or at some other time in the near future. I just don't want Republicans to take their eyes off of all the victories we've had." And then he goes on to list some of those victories, including what he calls the Great Big Beautiful Bill and also closing borders. This is something that the president has insisted on over the last several days, Hallie, expressing this frustration that the Epstein files is dominating the conversation here in Washington and overshadowing what he feels are the accomplishments of his administration. But again, the president in the last few minutes saying that he essentially does not care about the timing of when this gets out of Congress, but also giving no indication about when he actually does plan to sign this bill. In speaking with White House officials, again, very briefly in the last few minutes, they have no indication on whether the president might sign this tonight. It is notable, however, that he will be hosting the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman here at the White House for a glitzy dinner. Unclear if he'll be able to sign this tonight or if he could wait to sometime in the future, Hal.
Gabe Gutierrez, don't go too far from a camera given the pace of things tonight. Appreciate that. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, some pretty stunning moments caught on video in Congo. A small plane carrying that country's Minister of Mines and several others crashing. Look at that, skidding off a runway and erupting into flames. Somehow everybody is safe and sound, according to the government, but obviously a lot of damage there. Number 2, the Massachusetts man accused of killing and dismembering his wife is now pleading guilty to some charges just before jury selection in his trial. Prosecutors allege Brian Walsh assaulted and beat his wife, Anna, with the intent to murder her. Today, he pleaded guilty to disposing of her body and misleading police. He's still going to go on trial on the first-degree murder charge. At least 9 jurors have been seated so far today in that case. Number 3, Nicki Minaj heading over to the UN to talk about the alleged persecution of Christians in Nigeria. She's been working with the White House on this cause.
I stand here as a proud New Yorker with a deep sense of gratitude that we live in a country where we can freely and safely worship God regardless of one's creed, background, or politics.
U.S. Ambassador Mike Waltz also spoke, saying that while Nigeria's Christians cried out, President Trump answered. The president there had previously fired back at President Trump's allegations, saying Nigeria stands firmly as a democracy governed by constitutional guarantees of religious liberty. Number 4, look at this. Firefighters saving some pups from this house fire in San Bernardino, California. 3 adult pups, 6 little pups. I guess they're dogs versus puppies, but still, they got them all out. One didn't make it, unfortunately, after inhaling some smoke. It looks like crews used a chainsaw on the roof to get inside. Everybody evacuated safely before crews got there. Number 5, pretty acrobatic dolphin is catching a lot of attention in Venice, nicknamed Mimo. This dolphin's been around the city since July, but experts are trying to get him back to open water after he was hit by a boat propeller. Mimo's doing okay, but the first attempt to get him to swim away failed this weekend. Animal experts hope he migrates to warmer waters soon. A lot more to get to here on the show, including some brand new information from police about yet another burglary at a pro athlete's house. How much was reportedly stolen from this NFL star? Next. Tonight, we are hearing about another high-profile break-in at a big name's home tonight. Another NFL player. Ohio police say 3 people wearing masks broke into the home of Shedeur Sanders. You know him, Cleveland Browns quarterback? Well, he was making his NFL debut Sunday. He's the son of NFL Hall of Famer Deion Sanders, now known as Coach Prime, for the University of Colorado. The cops say whoever broke in took like a couple $100,000 worth of stuff. Shedeur Sanders now joins this long list of athletes who have fallen victim to these really brazen burglaries. Joe Burrow, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes. Steve Patterson has been following this for us. I need to say at the top, you said yesterday that like half of your, live shots on this show involve these high-profile break-ins, and I said, no, that's not true. We may be getting there because this is what's happening yet again. We just talked about the Real Housewives thing yesterday. Now there's this. What is going on?
Hallie, I'm not saying it's half, but in the pie graph of me being on your show, it is a large, large chunk.
Wild.
And for good reason, because, yes, it does keep happening. Now we're talking about Sanders. Let's talk about what happened in Cleveland. First of all, you have to feel bad for Sanders because in that game, to his own admission, he doesn't play well. He's brought in halfway through, and then come to find out, the game time is 4:25. The robbery takes place, I should say burglary, at about 6:46, according to police. They say, as you said, these are men in masks and gloves. They go into the house. They remove about $200,000 worth of personal items inside that home. They're out before an NFL quarter, essentially. They're out by 6:58, so 12 minutes. They rob him of that much of his own personal items, and then they're out. Police have no suspects at this point. We're hearing some surveillance video, so they do have something to go on. We asked for that video. Obviously, that's something that's probably part of the investigative process at this point. But just another in a long line of not only athletes, not only housewives, but also celebrities. We mentioned the housewives. We mentioned the NFL players. But what about Brad Pitt and Nicole Kidman? These were also victims in similar styles of these crimes, and they just seem to keep happening. So now there's warnings out from NFL, NBA to all facets of celebrity life, telling people to be careful, especially if you're going to these public events that are well publicized, to just make sure that everything is okay back at home, because again, this continues to happen. Hallie.
Steve Patterson, let's see what we talk about tomorrow, pal. Hopefully not this. Steve, thank you very much. NBC News covers hundreds of stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Western Bureau, a federal judge is denying bail for the man accused of igniting the deadly Palisades fire in California. He'd been fighting to be released. The government urging against it, saying the suspect is still a flight risk and a danger to the public. They shared messages suggesting he was considering leaving the country. You remember, of course, the fire burned a whole bunch of buildings. It killed 12 people. Out of our Northeast Bureau, at least one person is dead after a trench collapsed at a construction site on Cape Cod. Workers were trying to fix the road right before it happened. At least 2 other crew members were hurt. One of them pulled out after being buried up to his waist. Very scary. Out of our Southern Bureau, new body cam video shows Florida police stopping somebody from sending more money to scammers. Watch this.
How much money have you put in here?
Chase Bank is on the telephone.
No, Chase Bank's not on the telephone.
It was actually criminals overseas telling this 80-year-old to try to put cash into a Bitcoin ATM. He'd already put in like $50,000. Police were tipped off when his son noticed the whole thing. Officials say scammers try to convince victims they're in real trouble and they've got to move fast. So something to watch for yourself, for your parents, etc. Still to come, why more Americans say they're feeling more anxious about their health care than at any point in recent history. Next. So we're learning Americans heading into this coming year, 2026, are more anxious about health care than any time in recent memory. Nearly half of them say they're worried they're not even going to be able to afford it next year, according to a new survey from Gallup and West Health. Remember, costs may go up for millions of people who are on those Affordable Care Act insurance marketplaces if those premiums do, if those subsidies, rather, those tax credits do expire at the end of the year, as they are set to do now, unless Congress acts. There's also some big cuts coming to Medicaid. And then, of course, the cost of prescriptions, all of this is stressing people out. They're the most anxious they've been since Gallup started tracking this a couple years ago. Dr. John Torres joins us now. Dr. John, people are stressed. People are upset. What else is top of mind for them here?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And like you mentioned, 47% are very stressed right now about their health care costs and where they're going to go, what they're going to do. This is a survey, 20,000 people across 50 states, and they looked at a variety of things. They asked them a lot of questions, and what they found out is going into the new year, when people should be happy about what's happening in the new year, they're very anxious about what's going on with their own health care. On top of that, 1 in 3 are actually reporting skipping or delaying health care, and that is the thing that I think is most concerning. Now, the reasons they're saying they're delaying that health care is because of 3 specific things. One is the cost. The biggest barrier they have is the cost. The second biggest barrier they have is the wait time that is there. And on top of that, their own work schedules not allowing them to go into these health care appointments that they have. And so that means since they're not getting that health care, that is going to take a big impact on their health going into the future, not just into 2026, Hallie.
Dr. John, what are people supposed to do about it, right? Because this poll was out in the field before the government shutdown even happened. So, there have been developments since then, even.
There have been developments since then, and now with the government, again, the government shutdown pushed it to a level. What's happening now is pushed it to even a higher level. And the big concern right now is what's happening with the Medicaid coverage, because that is being reduced. They're putting those work requirements in there, which we think are going to cause issues. And as a matter of fact, they're predicting between now and 2034, 16 million people are going to end up losing health care coverage. And that's a huge amount of people not to have health care coverage in here. And one thing we do know is when people don't get health care, it doesn't just affect them, it affects the communities around them. We found out that during the pandemic, because these diseases are infections, these health care issues affect everybody. And so the concern here is what's going to happen going into the future. What are we going to do with it from here? But the biggest point from this, the biggest take home from this, again, is those people that are going to lose their health care coverage, the anxiety they have over right now, and the fact that they are delaying their care, Hallie. That's the most concerning thing.
Dr. John Torres, thank you very much for that. Appreciate that. And thank you all, as always, for watching. I got to jam out. I got to get to an assignment. But Yasmin Vasugian, our friend of the show, is going to pick it up for me next hour. That's a wrap for now. More coverage picks up right now.
Hey, everybody, we start with this hour with fast-moving developments on both ends of Pennsylvania Avenue, with the House and Senate approving the bill to release the Epstein files. What President Trump is saying as it heads to his desk. Then the president side by side with Saudi Crown Prince, the controversial warm welcome MBS got today at the White House. Plus another big win for a big player in tech, why a judge says Meta can keep its social media empire intact. And the latest on the immigration crackdown in North Carolina, why operations are paused in one major city as more people are arrested in another. Then what we are just learning about the cause of that deadly bridge collapse in Baltimore, why officials say it could have been avoided. Hey everybody, I'm Yasmin in for Hallie tonight, and right now we start with all eyes on the White House as the bill to force the release to all of the remaining Epstein files is now moving to President Trump's desk after clearing key votes in the House and Senate.
What do the American people want to know? They want to know who else visited Epstein's Island, who raped young girls, who abused young girls, who are the other people who were involved.
And we're hearing cheers from survivors of Epstein's abuse moments ago when the Senate approved that bill. Many of them at the Capitol today rallying support for the bill. Questions now on what is actually in some of those documents and when we could see them. More on that in just a moment. But the complicating factor here is the Justice Department could still keep some of those documents under wraps because of victims' privacy and, of course, the investigation the president demanded into Epstein's connections to Democrats. We've got team coverage on this. We've got Tom Winter standing by for us on set here. I want to start, though, with Ryan Nobles on Capitol Hill. Ryan, if you will, get us up to speed here. Wow, the last couple of hours, didn't necessarily expect this, but possibly predicted it. What happened?
Well, Yasmin, I think you're right. Nothing happens this quickly or this bipartisan in this era of the United States Congress. And what took quite a while to get to the House floor, once it got there, it moved through the Congress at rapid breakneck speed. We saw the House overwhelmingly pass this resolution that will force the Department of Justice to release files related to the Epstein investigation by a almost unanimous margin, 427 yes votes to only 1 no vote. And then on the Senate side of things, the Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer came to the Senate floor about an hour ago, less than an hour ago, and put up a resolution to say that he would offer up unanimous consent that the second that the bill make it to the Senate, that it be deemed passed. Now, even one senator could have objected to that and forced the process to play itself out. Remember, the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, had suggested that he didn't like the resolution in its current form and that there should be some level of amendment added to it. Not a single senator spoke up. They gavelled out, and that means when the bill makes its way from the House to the Senate, it will automatically be considered passed and then go to President Trump for his signature. And our White House team also saying late tonight that President Trump has said that he will sign the bill when it gets to his desk. So something that took months to get here, and there was a lot of fighting and back and forth over the form and fashion in which this would come to be, is now the law of the land. And Yasmin, it will now be the responsibility of the Department of Justice to comply with the U.S. Congress and hand over this information. This isn't a suggestion. This is now a law.
So Ryan, you just said it, and I want to reiterate it to folks because we're just getting this reporting in from our colleague Garrett Haake, who's at the White House for us, that in fact they are now telling him that the bill will in fact be signed whenever it gets to the White House. Can you kind of remind folks as to how we got here? I mean, this was a president, literally, Ryan, you and I have been speaking on the podcast over the last few weeks or so about this, months, I should say. And the president certainly did not want these Epstein files released. And he made a real about face in the last couple of days or so. And now, in fact, saying he's going to sign it.
Yeah. I mean, you have to go all the way back to the 2024 presidential campaign, Yasmin, to really see where this whole issue began to really bubble up. And it was really conservative influencers, some of the most ardent supporters of President Trump during the campaign, who insisted on the release of the Epstein files, suggested that there was a vast conspiracy that was being bottled up by the United States government, and that transparency was necessary. So the energy around this issue really came from the right side of the political spectrum. It was not something, admittedly, that Democrats were paying much attention to leading up to Donald Trump taking office. But as soon as Donald Trump took office, and there was a moment over the summer where the Department of Justice came out and gave kind of a half-hearted release of these Epstein files. It was largely information that had already been public. It was information that had been part of court proceedings. And all these conservative influencers who had been kind of at the knife's edge of this fight around the Epstein files said, this isn't enough. This isn't what we're looking for. We demand more. And that's what led to this discharge petition by Republican and Democrat member Ro Khanna and Tom Massey. And in order to get something to the floor, any House member can do that, but they need 218 of their colleagues to join them in doing so. They got this to the floor despite objections from House Republican leadership. And it was that final signature of Adelita Grijalva of Arizona, who Speaker Johnson refused to seat and swear in due to the government shutdown. As soon as she signed that petition, it became very clear that most House Republicans would support this legislation and supported the idea of transparency and forcing the Department of Justice to do that. At that point, President Trump seemed to recognize the reality of this situation and then said he was in favor of the bill being passed as well. And that's why we find ourselves with this thing going from something that was a lot of fits and starts and not clear if it was ever going to happen to moving at a breakneck pace to the point now where it is all on the Department of Justice to make good on this request and requirement of the United States Congress.
It is also fascinating to me that this is really one of the sole bipartisan efforts to get across the finish line that we have seen in quite some time, Ryan, in Congress, that both Democrats and Republicans are coming together to release these Epstein files, something that they have not been able to agree on for quite some time. On anything else besides this?
Yeah, and I think what it demonstrates more than anything, Yasmin, is that this is overwhelmingly popular with the American people. The American people believe that there needs to be transparency around the Epstein controversy. They are craving it. They are demanding it. And it doesn't matter if they're Republican or Democrat, black, white, male, female, across the board. This is a popular decision. That's why you see these politicians responding to what their constituents are telling them and voting yes for this tonight.
Ryan Nobles, thank you. Appreciate it. Want to bring in Tom Winter, who's standing by for us. So the question is, what and when? When does this actually come out? Is anything going to be held back because of this now investigation into the Democrats as the president launched late last week? And then also, what is in these files that the Americans could feasibly learn?
So you and I spent a half hour today talking about this on our podcast.
Which is out right now, by the way.
Which is out right now, by the way. And it's not a shameless plug because we could have talked for another half an hour, and yet things have still changed since we spoke. So, look, a lot of dynamic information here tonight. We've got more details from this bill. It's been widened out a little bit as far as scope, more details included in it. A lot of things we've been talking about for the past couple of days. The FBI's interviews with anybody that they talked to, the summaries of those will likely be included. There's going to be information about the internal deliberations of the Justice Department, any sort of discussion about plea deals and plea agreements. And some of that has come out previously, as we've reported, but some of that might be quite new and might be interesting.
You're talking about emails, you're talking about note-taking as well.
Email, note-taking, anything that might exist. And then you've got the flight logs and the travel records. And again, we've seen a lot of that before. I think what's going to be interesting is there anything from the more recent New York investigation that's outside the scope of the grand jury that we'll have the ability to see, including Epstein's phone? We have some emails provided by the estate. We've got his old contact book going back to 2005, 2006. Who is he speaking to more recently? But I continue to say there will be people, we can talk about this, with respect to Larry Summers and Harvard. There'll be people that have communicated with Jeffrey Epstein after he pleaded guilty to state charges and signed that non-prosecution agreement that perhaps should not have been speaking with him or should have recognized the person that they were speaking with and made a different conclusion. And that appears to be the case with several individuals that we've heard about so far. So that could be a potential headline as far as third parties that haven't been identified. But I keep going back to the fact that this summer, the Justice Department and the FBI told you in a memo they did not sign, it did not specifically date, but it was released in July, that we don't even have enough new information to open an investigation into any third parties. So the question now in the backstory on all this is it more political than it is something that'll help our understanding? You're looking at the
Is the release more political is what you mean?
Is it more political? Is it going to help the victims get more information?
Well,
on the other hand, it could be both. It could be something that helps them get a better understanding. It could be something that provides more closure. And is there any sort of international nexus to this that would not perhaps be within the Justice Department's legal purview that we could glean more information about? That could be fascinating. But there's not a lot of indication tonight that we are due to expect some sort of revelation in these documents, at least more recently, that there's any sort of uncharged third party here, somebody that was directly involved in the abuse. As far as documents that may have been back in the past that was outside the scope and the statute of limitations, that's something that might be worth looking at, but we're just going to have to see.
So then timing, right? If the president signs this thing, as you said he's going to, when could these documents be released? How redacted will they be? And at what point does the DOJ step in and say, well, you know what, we have this ongoing investigation, so all of these papers, you're not going to see any of those because of the investigation.
The letter of the law says the moment the bill is enacted, there's 30 days the Justice Department has to produce these records in a searchable format, which has always been a challenge for them. And that is regardless of administration. This is something that they're going to really have to build out here and put together. Challenge number one.
There's always AI.
If there's any sort of well, we can get, that's a separate discussion. I don't want AI to summarize these notes, maybe initially, but we're going to read them and go through them individually. Second thing is any sort of legal challenges to this law or the identification of third parties. And then the question becomes this ongoing investigation. So we were told that there was nothing to investigate. Now, the President of the United States says, Donald Trump says, look, I want the Democratic component of this, the former President of the United States, Bill Clinton, other individuals, I want them investigated. The Attorney General says, yes, we'll do that. And we've got an active inquiry by Jay Clayton, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. By the way, the only office that ever brought charges against Epstein and Maxwell, they're now taking a look at it. The law provides for files to be withheld pertaining to an ongoing investigation. So the question now becomes for the Justice Department, do they assert that, like, hey, look, we'll provide you these documents in 30 days, but as the law says, we have an ongoing investigation. We're not going to provide them to you yet. That's a big question now going forward.
So just for me to understand this and for viewers to understand this, what do you make of the timing of the president calling on an investigation while simultaneously saying release the files, knowing that this investigation could hold up the release of these files?
I have no reporting, and anything I would say would be speculation. I just don't. It's not a realm I want to get into. I don't cover the White House. I don't cover politics.
But there may very well.
I understand how it looks to people that you have somebody saying call for an investigation with the fact that they knew that then the way that the law was written would say that you wouldn't be able to release documents as long as it was under investigation. I understand how it looks.
Yeah.
But I don't have any reporting that informs it one way or the other.
And the possibility that there is a there, that something that was missed amidst one of these individuals that may have acted nefariously in which they could face charges in the future. Where are we on that?
Well, then they would have had to fool the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, which brought cases against a number of Republican and Democratic people over the last 5 to 6 years. They would have had to fool the New York field office of the FBI, which hasn't shied away from bringing any major cases of late. Just look at the track record of the last 4 or 5 years combined. So either this has been one of the greatest failures in American law enforcement as it pertains to the recent investigation. I'm not talking about the non-prosecution agreement and what happened in Florida. I'm talking about the recent investigation. That would be something that would be quite surprising. And again, the FBI and the Justice Department told you this summer we don't even have enough to open an investigation, let alone move forward with a prosecution.
By the way, you can hear more of Tom Winter on our podcast. Here's the Scoop, wherever you get your podcast. Thank you, Tom.
You got it.
Appreciate it. All right, so our own Hallie Jackson sat down with family members of one of the most prominent Epstein accusers, Virginia Giuffre. She died by suicide earlier this year. Here is Hallie's conversation with Giuffre's brother and sister-in-law just in the last hour, right before the Senate passed the bill to send it to President Trump's desk.
Sky and Amanda Roberts, we're very grateful to have you here on such, I think, a critical day. I can already see the emotion in both of your faces. What does this moment mean to you?
She did it. She did it. She paved the way for the survivors to continue to come forward and to continue to fight. And it means everything to us today. I mean, it's unanimous. There was only one nay on the floor. I think it represents how the American people truly feel about this, and that it's time. It's time to give healing to the survivors, but it's also time to give healing to so many other survivors out there, including many Americans that have a very similar story, even though it's not Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. So, you know, we're so proud of her today. It's a win, and we got to take those wins, you know, because there's a lot more work to continue to do.
What do you think Virginia would say if she were here today?
I don't think I could say that on live television, honestly. I think she was just such a firecracker, but I think she'd say we're doing it. And she would look at her survivor sisters and tell them everything that they've done, everything that they've been fighting for together was not in vain. And I think she would feel so much joy today, and like the camaraderie with her survivor sisters today was so powerful, and it was so special to share this moment with them.
You talk about this process moving forward here. President Trump was asked today in the Oval Office, why not simply direct his Department of Justice to release these files now? What would your message be to the administration on that? Amanda, Skye, either one of you.
I think it's really difficult. It's a twofold thing with the administration. I feel like we've gone through this process of gaslighting and the back and forth, and it's really hard to trust the things that they say. I think we're looking to them for action. Actions are going to speak volumes more than anything else. And it's in your power to do the right thing. So if you wanted this to be released, then you would just do it. I think we are looking elsewhere for the hand of help right now. It would be surprising. It would be a pleasant surprise to see this administration really back survivors and release the files and do the right thing. But unfortunately, I'm not going to be naive to expect that to happen. I would love to be pleasantly surprised.
We have also talked before about Ghislaine Maxwell, who is obviously serving her sentence, and some form of leniency or clemency has not been ruled out. The president, again, I don't know if we've talked since then, just recently, again was asked about it and again did not rule that out. How do you see that?
It's truly a slap in the face to us and to so many survivors out there. The truth is, like, the UK and the king can strip his brother of the prince title, but our own president can't rule out a somebody who's been convicted of sex trafficking minors. That's the conversation we're having. I think it's disgusting that she's she's playing with puppies in her prison, and you have guards now coming out publicly saying, "I'm tired of serving her like she's some type of celebrity inside of there." She's not a celebrity. She's convicted of sex trafficking minors, including my sister.
One of the things that you two and so many, as you say, who Virginia called her survivor sisters, have been pushing for is the release of more information. Obviously, this is what's happened today is a step closer to that. Are you confident that ultimately these files will be released, Skye?
We're hopeful. They've had them in their possession for a very long time. We hope that they are very careful with the survivors' names. They've been a little reckless recently, especially with the unredaction of our own sisters' names in some of the files coming out. I think they need to make sure they're protecting the survivors first, but make sure we're not protecting the predators. We have to have them released and completely unredacted to the people that would have been involved. And we know for a fact there's videos. My sister was led to the very room where Jeffrey Epstein had shown that he can see everybody in every room. He was a master manipulator. And so we are hopeful. I think it's time for true accountability, and that's what we won't stop. The survivor sisters won't stop until we get that.
Before I let you go, I know that this has been an incredibly difficult year on a lot of fronts for both of you, with the loss of Virginia and with this advocacy that you have been doing over the course of so many months. How are you? How are you doing through all this?
You're the first person to ask that question, actually. It depends on the day. There are moments, and grief isn't singular. There are moments where it's so heavy and it's so deep. We miss her so much. But then there are days that we get relief with days like this, and just speaking to her survivor sisters, having that connection and being with family and remembering her in the best way. I think the grief journey will never really be over for us.
You think about her all the time, I know.
Oh, yeah, every day.
Especially today?
Oh, man, she is screaming today. Whatever button she's pressing from the other side, she's still fighting with her survivor sisters, just maybe not here in the physical.
Skye and Amanda Roberts, thank you so much for being with us. I know you've had a lot on your plate today and over the last couple of months. We really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you to Hallie for that, Sky and Amanda Roberts as well. We're going to be keeping our eye on the release of these Epstein files and, of course, as it makes its way to the president's desk. But also in the next hour, the Saudi crown prince will join the president at dinner over at the White House, right after the president jumped to the defense of Mohammed bin Salman after he was asked about the role he may have played in the 2018 killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi.
A lot of people didn't like that gentleman that you're talking about. Whether you like him or didn't like him, things happen, but he knew nothing about it, and we can leave it at that.
So the prince has not been to the White House since Khashoggi's death. The CIA is saying bin Salman was responsible. He denies this. As for the president, he has rolled out this elaborate welcome for the Saudi prince. Take a look at this. You got a red carpet, military flyover, color guard on horseback. The president denying any conflicts of interest between his family business deals with the Saudis and his job as the president of the United States. The president's properties hosted tournaments for Saudi-backed Live Golf for years. And the Trump Organization has multiple real estate ventures in the country, including 2 new Trump towers as well. I want to bring in Gabe Gutierrez, who's standing by for us at the White House. We got a lot of headlines coming out of the White House over the last few hours or so, but I want to focus more in on the meeting today with the Saudi crown prince, including this fiery moment right in the Oval Office. What more can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's right, Yasmin. Look, this was not an official state visit, but it certainly felt like it. You mentioned the pomp and circumstance as the president greeted the crown prince here at the White House, and we expect some of that as well in just a short time when he welcomes him for dinner. But yes, in the Oval Office right behind me earlier today, a bit of a rare moment with the crown prince taking wide-ranging questions along with the president. The president was pressed about some of his family's business dealings inside Saudi Arabia. You mentioned some of the Trump-branded developments there, and the president was asked whether any of these amounted to a conflict of interest, and then he was pressed about Prince's alleged role in the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. Here's how he responded. Let's listen to the exchange.
And Your Royal Highness, the U.S. intelligence concluded that you orchestrated the brutal murder of a journalist. 9/11 families are furious that you are here in the Oval Office. Why should Americans trust you? And the same to you, Mr. President.
Now, who are you with?
I'm with ABC News, sir.
You're with who?
ABC News, sir.
Fake news. ABC fake news. One of the worst in the business. But I'll answer your question. I have nothing to do with the family business. I have left, and when I've devoted 100% of my energy. What my family does is fine.
Now, the Crown Prince also responded to that question directly that the reporter posed to him. Let's listen to his response.
It's really painful to hear, anyone that been losing his life for, no real purpose or not in a legal way, and it's been painful for us in Saudi Arabia.
So you just heard the Crown Prince there saying it was painful for those in Saudi Arabia. Of course, someone else, Yasmin, that it has been very painful as well is the wife of Jamal Khashoggi. She posted on social media earlier today saying that there is no justification to murder my husband, she wrote. While Jamal is a good, transparent, and brave man, many people may not have agreed with his opinions and his desire for freedom of the press. The Crown Prince said he was sorry, so he should meet me, apologize, and compensate me for the murder of my husband. But again, Yasmin, very significant here, President Trump defending the Crown Prince, especially as he gives this lavish welcome to the Crown Prince here at the White House that continues. Yeah.
We have talked a lot, Gabe, about repeated human and civil rights violations happening inside Saudi Arabia historically. And one of the ways in which the kingdom has tried to combat that on a PR level, really, right, around the world is something called sports washing. Getting in the game, for instance, of live, right, of golfing. Another way in which they do that is through soccer. And I know Cristiano Ronaldo, who has a huge contract with the kingdom in Saudi Arabia, is now at the White House, it seems, attending this dinner this evening as well. Why is he there?
Well, look, we haven't spotted him at the White House yet. I know he was expected here today, but yeah, certainly Ronaldo has become the face of the Saudi Pro League, has been now for several years. You mentioned in the introduction all the Live Golf tournaments that have been held at Trump properties as well. Look, this is something that, the president welcomes the here and has really been touting a business relationship with Saudi Arabia. The president touting that the Crown Prince wants to invest $600 billion. That was announced earlier this year. Now saying that total investment could be closer to $1 trillion. And so I think the Crown Prince, he wants legitimacy from the West, and certainly has. There have been concerns raised by many of his critics at saying that he is trying to gloss over human rights abuses by, sports washing, as you called it. Now, the president didn't seem to give any credence to that at all. He even praised the Crown Prince when it came to human rights today here in the West Wing. But certainly this entire trip, this 2-day trip that the Crown Prince is making here to the U.S., his first in many years, is not being well received by critics of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Gabe Gutierrez, thank you. Appreciate it. We're also learning tonight about another big win for tech under President Trump. This time, a judge ruling for Meta in an antitrust case brought against it by the Federal Trade Commission. You remember regulators, they accused Meta of blocking any competition and buying up potential rivals like WhatsApp and Instagram. FTC calling it a buy or bury strategy to protect a social media monopoly, and says tonight, and I'm quoting here, deeply disappointed in this decision. Want to bring in Brian Chung to talk more about this. So I think the question here is, does this ruling affect the FTC's ability to police big tech?
Yeah, Yasmin, I mean, this is a huge win for big tech. You had the government going after Meta and saying, hey, when you purchased Instagram, when you purchased the messaging app WhatsApp, you were trying to build a social media monopoly that was trying to crush all the other competition out there. And for that reason, we're going to try to sue you on antitrust grounds. Well, here you have this federal court saying, hey, you know what? We don't see this as antitrust. The reason being, other major competitors in the space like TikTok, where they're same eyeballs that are otherwise on the apps that Meta owns, like Instagram, like Facebook itself. So here is a judge that's basically saying we don't necessarily sympathize with the government's argument that there was antitrust just because they bought these massive apps at crazy valuations and continue to grow them, because there are these other massive social media companies in the mix as well. Meta is saying that, quote, the court's decision today recognizes that Meta faces fierce competition, but as you point out, the FTC under this Trump administration saying that they are deeply disappointed in this judge's ruling.
This investigation originated during the Trump administration's first term at the White House, right? How much did that investigation play into the decision now?
Well, I'm not sure if the timing necessarily factored into the judge's thinking, but what is really fascinating here is that there were multiple instances politically where the FTC could have decided just to drop the case. We've seen that in other cases under this administration. It's interesting that the Trump administration decided to follow through on that, maybe in part because it was Trump 1 that first lobbed this suit in the first place in 2020. Interestingly, the Biden administration under Lina Khan, arguably the kind of most hawkish person to ever lead the Federal Trade Commission, deciding to stick that case through. So in many cases, this was a bipartisan effort. But I think the question is what happens to those other big tech companies. There's a major ruling with Google where a judge already said that they did commit antitrust violations. What's the remedy in that case? That's something I'm going to be watching for.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. All right, so the Trump administration appearing to reverse course tonight as well, backing off its planned expansion of its immigration crackdown into Raleigh, North Carolina. That is according to a senior administration official who tells NBC News that Border Patrol doesn't have plans for operations there for now. But the mayor of Durham, just outside of Raleigh, says agents are on the ground there and is asking people to, quote, record and report any interactions. And operations are still going on in Charlotte as well, where Border Patrol arrested over 200 people in just the last 3 days or so. You were looking at this video that our team just shot of protesters rejecting that federal presence in their city. You got some businesses that have closed during all this, and the county school district saying over 27,000 students were absent on Monday. 27,000. That's like 3 times the number of absences a week ago. Julia Ainsley's on the ground for us. I'm covering this in Charlotte. What do we know, Julia, about why the administration is reversing course here?
Well, it's interesting. We know that they were looking at going to Raleigh, and then Greg Bovino, who's the name to remember, he's the one in charge of Border Patrol operations here, reversed course early this morning and decided to stay in Charlotte. Now, just over the first 3 days, they arrested over 207 people. It's unclear how many of those had criminal histories, but they continue to have some success here in Charlotte. We've seen more videos today of Border Patrol operations. So for now, this is where they are focusing. You did mention agents on the ground in Raleigh, and we do think that we could continue to see immigration operations there. But a lot of the activists that I talked to in Raleigh say that it's unclear whether it's Border Patrol or ICE. For now, Charlotte, North Carolina remains the epicenter of Border Patrol activity. And the Department of Homeland Security is coming in saying that this will have an impact on crime here. But the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, Yasmin, says that crime has already fallen here. Just in the last year, violent crime here is down 20%. They've also seen a drop in other crime indicators like homicide and robberies down 22%, aggravated assaults down 19%. Another city saying we don't need DHS to come in and do immigration sweeps in this aggressive style. Instead, they say, leave it to the police to handle. Yasmin.
Julia, I mentioned that huge number, right? 27,000 absences at the schools. Is there any evidence to suggest that that is directly correlated with what's happening on the ground behind you?
Absolutely, Yasmin. I mean, this is my home state, so I have friends who are teachers here. I have friends who are school administrators in Raleigh. I have family who are in healthcare in Raleigh as well. And you're seeing this across the board. They're seeing parents who are not taking their children to school and sometimes getting neighbors to take their children to school or not sending them at all. In Raleigh, for example, a free healthcare clinic had a 75% cancellation in patients today. We've seen churches close their doors here with large Latino populations. A lot of people describing parts of this city as a ghost town, except for right here. And that's why what's happening behind me is so interesting, because people are trying to come out in solidarity with the community. We've seen this crowd grow overnight. But I also want you to listen to what someone said today about the fear rising in this community. Take a listen.
I think they're targeting wherever there is a strong Hispanic presence. You're not even safe in the suburbs. Like, it's scary.
You know, and I did also speak to someone here today who said that this is someone who is from the mountains of North Carolina, came here to see what was going on because she said this is what she voted for and she wants to see enforcement action. But of course, we can also see a large degree of pushback on those enforcement actions in this city of Charlotte, especially when it comes to Border Patrol's aggressive tactics and when they break windows and go onto private property, especially, Yasmin.
Julie Ainsley, thank you. All right, coming up, some breaking news just into us. Police reportedly investigating a well-known singer in connection with the death of a 15-year-old girl. Plus, why officials say that deadly bridge collapse in Baltimore could have been avoided. I'll be right back. Welcome back. We want to bring you some breaking news that we've been following. An LAPD source is telling our NBC News station in Los Angeles that the singer David is now a suspect in connection with the death of a 15-year-old girl. This is a story that we've been telling you about on this show. Celeste Rivas's remains were found decomposed in the trunk of a Tesla registered to the singer that had been impounded at a Los Angeles tow yard back in early September. An LAPD source with direct knowledge of the investigation telling our NBC News station in Los Angeles that the artist has not been cooperative in this investigation and that the girl's death likely occurred in the spring and that the singer likely had help in dismembering and disposing of the body. I want to bring in Danny Savalas now for more on this. There, Danny, had been a lot of questions about why he had not been identified as a suspect earlier because the Tesla, as I mentioned, where her remains were actually found, had been registered to the singer, to David. Why not announce him as a suspect until now?
I would say there could be a couple different reasons. First, maybe police were waiting to see if he would do something that would be revealing, or maybe police were looking at other kinds of digital evidence using things like subpoenas or search warrants. But the bottom line, I mean, police have many different reasons for not naming someone as a suspect early on, not the least of which is you might get some cooperation from them early on. As soon as they're a suspect and you Mirandize them, good luck getting any assistance from them. But there are many different investigative reasons why police might have somebody in mind, but might not want to identify them as a suspect early on.
Well, I'm glad that you actually said that point of saying good luck, because if you're representing an individual like this, in which this decomposed body was found in the trunk of a car registered to you, is the right move advising your client to not cooperate with authorities at all?
Yes. I mean, I wouldn't say not cooperate. What I would say is remain silent. But look, Yasmin, it's exactly the same thing. You're exactly right. But yeah, I mean, if you have any kind of culpability at all, talking to the police voluntarily is just not a good idea. If they have the evidence, they're going to get it one way or another. And if you're the one who did it, they are likely to be able to find some evidence that you did. But talking to them rarely, if ever, assists a suspect. And it can get some people who haven't done anything wrong in a lot of trouble, too.
Dana Savalos, thank you. Appreciate it. So the NTSB today says a loose wire is partly to blame for knocking the power out on a ship that crashed into that bridge in Baltimore, causing the whole thing to actually collapse, killing 6 people last March. You remember the shocking video, a huge container ship smashing into one of the piers of the Francis Scott Key Bridge, the whole structure actually falling into the water. At a public hearing today, officials say the crew lost control of the ship when the power went out, but that it all could have been avoided.
None of us should be here today. This tragedy should have never occurred. Lives should have never been lost. As with all accidents that we investigate, this was preventable.
Let's bring in Aaron Gilchrist on this. This was, Aaron, by far the most detailed breakdown of this disaster. Walk us through what else investigators have found.
Well, we learned today that the investigators had a list of findings about what may have led to this this collision and ultimately the collapse of the Key Bridge. A list of 25 items and then another 18 recommendations to prevent a similar accident from happening in the future. And you talked about it, that loose wire really was the root cause of a chain of events that led to this accident almost 2 years ago now in Baltimore. There was a loose wire inside a breaker, and that caused a blackout on board the Dolly. There were 2 blackouts that day, March 26th, about 1:30 in the morning. That caused the first one, and really that set in motion a chain of events that ultimately led to the boat hitting one of the piers of the Key Bridge, ultimately causing the center of the bridge to collapse. The NTSB also saying that there were other contributing factors here. The fact that the state of Maryland didn't have countermeasures in place to reduce the vulnerability of that bridge to a collision like this. And they also talked about the lack of effective and immediate communication for the workers who were on that bridge. You remember there were 7 men who fell into the water when the bridge collapsed. We learned that they did not get any heads up. State police were able to block the bridge to traffic because they were alerted that there was an emergency on the water. The 6 men you see here did not get any sort of an alert. I want you to hear what was said about that as a part of the meeting today.
Had the highway workers been notified of the Dolly's emergency at the same time as the MDTA police officers, there would have been about 1 minute and 29 seconds to evacuate before Pier 17 collapsed.
There were portions of the bridge that did not fall into the water, and investigators believe it's very possible that these men could have, in their vehicles, made it to one of those sections that didn't collapse in the water during, if they had been alerted in the same time period that police had been alerted to shut down the bridge. We also learned from Maryland officials that they are in the process of building a new Key Bridge, a higher bridge, a stronger bridge, a bridge with more safety apparatus in place around it to prevent something like this from happening again. But Yasmin, we've also learned that that bridge is now behind schedule, and the costs have nearly doubled, upwards of $4 billion to build this new bridge. They thought it would open in 2028. Now they're saying it's more likely it will open in 2030 because the costs have risen as a result of materials costing more. And Governor Wes Moore in Maryland says that tariffs from the Trump administration do play a role in some of those costs going up, Yasmin.
A lot of lessons to be learned from that hearing today. Aaron Gilchrist, thank you. So much more ahead tonight, folks. After the break, Hallie's going to be back with some other headlines, including the big blow to Texas Republicans and President Trump out of a federal court today, and why Nicki Minaj showed up at a UN event. Plus, a reminder, everybody, you can catch me every day on our new podcast, Here's a Scoop, wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be right back.
A blow to Texas Republicans and to President Trump from a federal court today, blocking those newly redrawn congressional maps in Texas for the midterms coming up, less than a year from now. The goal was to try to flip these 5 Democratic seats to more Republican-leaning seats. That move, you might remember, triggering huge protests. State lawmakers, remember, they left the state to try to prevent the remaining ones from gaveling in. Democrats kind of did this protest to try to prevent Republicans from moving forward with any legislation. The whole thing sparking this broader redistricting battle across the country. You're looking at the states that are in the process now or have already done something to try to redistrict. Jane Tim is following this for us. And so now you have this significant moment, Jane. Explain the judge's rationale here. A judge, by the way, who was, I think, nominated by President Trump, who says this is really more than about politics.
Yeah, this is a conservative panel. Judge Brown wrote the opinion for this 3-judge panel, which has ruled that this was about more than politics. Texas Republicans had maintained that their gerrymander was a partisan one, that it was just about politics and that they drew the maps to elect more Republicans. But the court says you went after majority non-white seats. They point to the fact that the Department of Justice, Trump's Department of Justice, had urged Texas to specifically draw maps targeting these coalition districts in Texas. Now, coalition districts are non-white majority seats, but there isn't one race that makes up a majority of the seat. And so they said that those were sort of improperly done. They weren't in keeping with the Voting Rights Act, and the DOJ threatened to sue Texas. And Texas went and redrew 3 of those districts. And this redistricting plan, the linchpin of Republicans' national sort of redistricting effort, was tossed out because of this and because of what Trump's Department of Justice said.
So what does it mean functionally here? Like, what is it? Because it was really, I mean, I think about what we covered, what was it, 2 weeks ago now, 3 weeks ago, in California, which obviously had its own redistricting battle, et cetera. Like, this really set off a domino effect around the country. What does this mean in practical terms for the midterms in November?
In practical terms, if this is upheld, and it will certainly be appealed to the Supreme Court, Governor Abbott has said he will appeal it to the Supreme Court. These go directly to the top court. If it gets upheld there, Democrats could walk away with more seats than they started this cycle with, more seats than Trump has netted. Of course, the redistricting cycle is not over. More states could draw new maps, or this map could be, that this ruling could be tossed by the Supreme Court, who could say, you know, this is going to stand and the 2025 map will go forward. There's a lot at play here, but this is a huge. 5 seats is what would make a big difference.
Jane Tim following all of it. A busy beat for you, Jane. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, some pretty stunning moments caught on video in Congo. A small plane carrying that country's Minister of Mines and several others crashing. Look at that, skidding off a runway and erupting into flames. Somehow everybody is safe and sound, according to the government, but obviously a lot of damage there. Number 2, the Massachusetts man accused of killing and dismembering his wife is now pleading guilty to some charges just before jury selection in his trial. Prosecutors allege Brian Walsh assaulted and beat his wife, Anna, with the intent to murder her. Today, he pleaded guilty to disposing of her body and misleading police. He's still going to go on trial on the first-degree murder charge. At least 9 jurors have been seated so far today in that case. Number 3, Nicki Minaj heading over to the UN to talk about the alleged persecution of Christians in Nigeria. She's been working with the White House on this cause.
I stand here as a proud New Yorker with a deep sense of gratitude that we live in a country where we can freely and safely worship God regardless of one's creed, background, or politics.
U.S. Ambassador Mike Waltz also spoke, saying that while Nigeria's Christians cried out, President Trump answered. The president there had previously fired back at President Trump's allegations, saying Nigeria stands firmly as a democracy governed by constitutional guarantees of religious liberty. Number 4, look at this. Firefighters saving some pups from this house fire in San Bernardino, California. 3 adult pups, 6 little pups. I guess they're dogs versus puppies, but still, they got them all out. One didn't make it, unfortunately, after inhaling some smoke. It looks like crews used a chainsaw on the roof to get inside. Everybody evacuated safely before crews got there. Number 5, pretty acrobatic dolphin is catching a lot of attention in Venice, nicknamed Mimo. This dolphin's been around the city since July, but experts are trying to get him back to open water after he was hit by a boat propeller. Mimo's doing okay, but the first attempt to get him to swim away failed this weekend. Animal experts hope he migrates to warmer waters soon. A lot more to get to here on the show, including some brand new information from police about yet another burglary at a pro athlete's house. How much was reportedly stolen from this NFL star? Next. Tonight, we are hearing about another high-profile break-in at a big name's home tonight. Another NFL player. Ohio police say 3 people wearing masks broke into the home of Shedeur Sanders. You know him, Cleveland Browns quarterback? Well, he was making his NFL debut Sunday. He's the son of NFL Hall of Famer Deion Sanders, now known as Coach Prime, for the University of Colorado. The cops say whoever broke in took like a couple $100,000 worth of stuff. Shedeur Sanders now joins this long list of athletes who have fallen victim to these really brazen burglaries. Joe Burrow, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes. Steve Patterson has been following this for us. I need to say at the top, you said yesterday that like half of your, live shots on this show involve these high-profile break-ins, and I said, no, that's not true. We may be getting there because this is what's happening yet again. We just talked about the Real Housewives thing yesterday. Now there's this. What is going on?
Hallie, I'm not saying it's half, but in the pie graph of me being on your show, it is a large, large chunk.
Wild.
And for good reason, because, yes, it does keep happening. Now we're talking about Sanders. Let's talk about what happened in Cleveland. First of all, you have to feel bad for Sanders because in that game, to his own admission, he doesn't play well. He's brought in halfway through. And then come to find out, the game time is 4:25. The robbery takes place, I should say burglary, at about 6:46, according to police. They say, as you said, these are men in masks and gloves. They go into the house. They remove about $200,000 worth of personal items inside that home. They're out before an NFL quarter, essentially. They're out by 6:58, so 12 minutes. They rob him of that much of his own personal items, and then they're out. Police have no suspects at this point. We're hearing some surveillance video, so they do have something to go on. We asked for that video. Obviously, that's something that's probably part of the investigative process at this point. But just another in a long line of not only athletes, not only housewives, but also celebrities. We mentioned the housewives. We mentioned the NFL players. But what about Brad Pitt and Nicole Kidman? These were also victims in similar styles of these crimes, and they just seem to keep happening. So now there's warnings out from NFL, NBA to all facets of celebrity life, telling people to be careful, especially if you're going to these public events that are well publicized, to just make sure that everything is okay back at home, because again, this continues to happen. Hallie.
Steve Patterson, let's see what we talk about tomorrow, pal. Hopefully not this. Steve, thank you very much. NBC News covers hundreds of stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Western Bureau, a federal judge is denying bail for the man accused of igniting the deadly Palisades fire in California. He'd been fighting to be released. The government urging against it, saying the suspect is still a flight risk and a danger to the public. They shared messages suggesting he was considering leaving the country. You remember, of course, the fire burned a whole bunch of buildings. It killed 12 people. Out of our Northeast Bureau, at least one person is dead after a trench collapsed at a construction site on Cape Cod. Workers were trying to fix the road right before it happened. At least 2 other crew members were hurt. One of them pulled out after being buried up to his waist. Very scary. Out of our Southern Bureau, new body cam video shows Florida police stopping somebody from sending more money to scammers. Watch this.
How much money have you put in here?
Chase Bank is on the telephone.
No, Chase Bank's not on the telephone.
It was actually criminals overseas telling this 80-year-old to try to put cash into a Bitcoin ATM. He'd already put in like $50,000. Police were tipped off when his son noticed the whole thing. Officials say scammers try to convince victims they're in real trouble and they've got to move fast. So something to watch for yourself, for your parents, etc. Still to come, why more Americans say they're feeling more anxious about their health care than at any point in recent history. Next. So we're learning Americans heading into this coming year, 2026, are more anxious about health care than any time in recent memory. Nearly half of them say they're worried they're not even going to be able to afford it next year, according to a new survey from Gallup and West Health. Remember, costs may go up for millions of people who are on those Affordable Care Act insurance marketplaces if those premiums if those subsidies, those tax credits do expire at the end of the year, as they are set to do now, unless Congress acts. There's also some big cuts coming to Medicaid. And then, of course, the cost of prescriptions, all of this is stressing people out. They're the most anxious they've been since Gallup started tracking this a couple years ago. Dr. John Torres joins us now. Dr. John, People are stressed. People are upset. What else is top of mind for him here?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like you mentioned, 47% are very stressed right now about their health care costs and where they're going to go, what they're going to do. This is a survey, 20,000 people across 50 states, and they looked at a variety of things. They asked them a lot of questions, and what they found out is going into the new year, when people should be happy about what's happening in the new year, they're very anxious about what's going on with their own health care. On top of that, 1 in 3 are actually reporting skipping or delaying health care, and that is the thing that I think is most concerning. Now, the reasons they're saying they're delaying that health care is because of 3 specific things. One is the cost. The biggest barrier they have is the cost. The second biggest barrier they have is the wait time that is there. And on top of that, their own work schedules not allowing them to go into these health care appointments that they have. And so that means since they're not getting that health care, that is going to take a big impact on their health going into the future, not just into 2026, Hallie.
Dr. John, what are people supposed to do about it, right? Because this poll was out in the field before the government shutdown even happened. So, like, it's, you know, there have been developments since then even.
There have been developments since then, and now with the government, again, the government shutdown pushed it to a level. What's happening now is pushed it to even a higher level, and the big concern right now is what's happening with the Medicaid coverage, because that is being reduced. They're putting those work requirements in there, which we think are going to cause issues, and as a matter of fact, they're predicting between now and 2034, 16 million people are going to end up losing health care coverage, and that's a huge amount of people not to have health care coverage in here. And one thing we do know is when people don't get health care, it doesn't just affect them, it affects the communities around them. We found out that during the pandemic because these diseases are infections, these healthcare issues affect everybody. And so the concern here is what's going to happen going into the future, what are we going to do with it from here? But the biggest point from this, the biggest take home from this, again, is those people that are going to lose their healthcare coverage, the anxiety they have over right now, and the fact that they are delaying their care, Hallie. That's the most concerning thing.
Dr. John Torres, thank you very much for that. Appreciate that. That's a wrap for this hour. Coverage picks up right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.